On September 28, 1982, 12-year-old Mary Kellerman became the first and youngest victim of what would become known as the Tylenol murders. Mary wasn't feeling well and decided to stay home from school. She took Tylenol to try to make herself feel better, and she fell violently ill from this and was rushed to the hospital and pronounced dead the next day on September 29th. That same day, 6 more people would die in the same manner that Mary did, including 3 members of the Janus family, the same family, and 1 woman who had given birth just the day before. Nurse Helen Jensen, a public health official, was tasked with investigating the deaths in the Janus family, and she found a newly purchased bottle of Tylenol with 6 pills missing, 2 pills for each of the victims. She immediately suspected that it was the Tylenol, and it was discovered that it actually wasn't Tylenol, but it was contaminated and laced with potassium cyanide. More bottles were found laced in this same way, and at first it was thought that it came from a manufacturing plant, but this was ruled out when these different bottles were found to come from different lots, and it was ruled that someone was purchasing the bottles, contaminating them with the cyanide, and putting them back on store shelves. The prime suspect in this was a man named James Lewis. Lewis became the prime suspect after he wrote an extortion letter to Johnson & Johnson demanding $1 million be delivered into a certain bank account. The bank account number belonged to his wife's ex-boss. He admitted to writing this letter and got 10 years for extortion, and he said that he wrote the letter only to harass his boss and get him in trouble. Many years later, DNA samples were taken from James and his wife, and it was found that the DNA samples taken from them did not match the DNA samples on the contaminated bottles. More about James Lewis was that he had a very extensive rap sheet to many crimes that he was suspected of and some that he was actually charged of. One of the crimes he was suspected of was murder, in which a man who he worked as an accountant for was found hanged in his attic with his legs cut off and decomposing. This man, there was also checks written in this man's name that were forged by James Lewis. There supposedly wasn't enough evidence to pin it on James Lewis, and so he walked away from it. No one was ever charged with the Tylenol murders, and it remains unsolved. And it just goes to show that you can't really trust anything in society, even the pills that you take to try to relieve even your slightest headaches.